Chanukah Sameach, folks. It should be a wonderful, uplifting Chanukah. As we celebrate this Chanukah, let's ask that question we always do ask. What is Chanukah all about? Why are we celebrating? All these millennia later, why are we lighting those candles? What is it about? We come back to the same ideas that we did last year, the ideas of hope at times of darkness, the few against the many, the weak against the strong, the miracles of God, the revealed and the non-revealed miracles. All very beautiful and fine ideas. And yet, when the Rambam codifies the halacha of Chanukah, when the Rambam talks about the significance of this miracle, he adds an extra line, which seems to be a little strange. He says the reason why we celebrate this is that after the Hasmoneans overturned the Greek Empire and sovereignty, Chazra Malchus li Yisrael li Yoser Mimosayim Shana. That after the Hasmoneans pushed out the Greeks, the sovereignty of the land of Israel returned to Jewish control for more than 200 years. And that makes a lot of sense in the sense that up till now, since the first Commonwealth, the Beis Hamikdash, the first Beis Hamikdash had been destroyed, the land of Israel had been under the control of the Babylonians, the Persians and the Greeks. And even the second Beis Hamikdash, the nation of Israel was still paying taxes to a foreign power that controlled that as a vassal state. But there's something strange about the formulation of the Rambam. Because if you look in those 200 years the Rambam refers to, those 200 years of sovereignty that we celebrate on Chanukah, they were complex. And boy were they complex. If you look into the continuation of the Hasmonean dynasty, you read a little bit about it, whether you read in the words of Chazal, in the words of the book of Maccabees, whether you read Josephus or historians at the time, you realize that it was a very complex 200 years following Chanukah. Battle after battle, infighting and external fighting. Yes, there were good times, but the Hasmoneans themselves, perhaps according to many Torah thinkers, should not have retained both the priesthood and the kingship, and they were criticized as such. There was such infighting that the Gemara describes in Baba Kama that there was one point that two factions of the family, Aristobulus and Hyrcanus, were fighting against each other, and there was a siege around the Beis Hamikdash itself between one faction of the family and the other. There were internal murders, all kinds of terrible things followed, till the point that later on Herod, who was the son of Antipater, married a Hasmonean, killed out all the heirs to the throne, and ultimately his wife committed suicide, and he took the reins and aligned the kingdom much more with Rome. And that's included in the 200 years of the Rambam. And you ask yourself, is that worth celebrating? Why did the Rambam include that? And precisely that's exactly the point. Is that God gives gifts to the nation of Israel. God gives gifts to the world at certain points in time, and they're complex. And it's not simple. And the answers aren't always obvious. And there'll be sovereignty, there'll be Jewish control of the land of Israel, but it won't be exactly as we imagined it. And it won't be the governments we imagined, and it won't be the coalitions we imagined, and it won't be the long term that we imagined, and all the peace that we anticipated and expected. Very much like the times that we're living in. People criticize that and that and this. The right, the left, the center, the coalition, everything people criticize. But you know what, folks? Let's take a step backwards. Let's take a step backwards, and we ought to be our own critics, and we ought to make a better society, and we ought to aim for better. Whenever it came in the last 75 years of the state of Israel, what the Rambam is telling us is that the overarching theme is gratitude. That we should be thankful that we are living in such a day and age where we can get onto a plane and fly 11 hours from America or wherever else one's coming from in the world to the land of Israel, a place we call home. That is worth celebrating. And Chanukah perhaps had a complicated continuum there afterwards, but we still had the land of Israel. That is worth celebrating. That is why we celebrate Chanukah, with all the complexity, the simplicity of the gift of Israel. Have a wonderful and meaningful Chanukah.